Welcome back to the Uneducated Philosopher. Um, I was looking at today's issue of the New York Times and the news, and there's been a lot going on lately. Obviously, a lot of wars, and we got what's going on in Israel, and then Ukraine, and the Malaysian Airlines Boeing 777 plane got shot down there in Ukraine, and it's a very tragic thing to happen, and it's setting off all kinds of uproar throughout the world, and a lot of people are very quick to lay blame, and basically, the international community is leaning everything towards Russia, and ultimately, whether it was Russia or not, you can basically see that Russia at some point is going to take the heat for it. Even though the media is making it perfectly clear that they have no idea exactly who fired the missile, they're already leaning towards it was the separatists, and that these weapons were supplied by Russia because they're Russian made missiles, and even though there's Russian made missiles all over the world, and basically trying to drift away from the fact that it could very well possibly even been the Ukrainian army that shot a plane down, and it happened to be a passenger plane. Either way you look at it, it's it's a very terrible tragedy. The reason why I want to discuss this is because I've been saying for a little while now that I feel that America is kind of trying to lean towards bringing back the Red Scare. The days of when this side of the world could just blame that side of the world for everything, and they had a better control on the people. America got away with a lot of stuff, and whenever things were questioned, they could turn around and say, well, we gotta fight communism, and it's the Russians, it's the Ruskies, the Red Scare, blah blah blah. And it worked for a really, really long time. They got away with a lot just by blaming communism, and we gotta fight communism. So, I mean, when you look at it, you can see a trend that's happening where someone that follows history, if you've studied history as much as I have, you kind of see like patterns that have been done before. And, it's like history repeats itself. And it's funny because, my dad used to say to me all the time, like, know your history, because if you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it, or you're doomed to suffer from it. And it's hilarious because so many people don't know their history, and so many people are seeing what's happening now, and they're reacting so fast. Already, I've seen on the internet world, just so many reactions to Russia, 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 and everybody just they're jumping on the gun real quick, and they just wanna blame Russia. And Russia could very well be to blame. I mean, there still needs to be an investigation, and they still need to find out what's going on. But the way I look at it is that has anybody even stopped and thought, like, with an open mind, like, if it possibly was our side of the fence? Like, our part of the world, we've been supporting the European Union, which is supporting Ukraine on this. And you know, does our media ever stop to think that it could have possibly been Ukraine, and maybe it was an accident, or you know, it could be a lot of things. Now, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I never have been. But there's something that I remembered when I seen this the other day. And in 1983, I read it in a book actually recently. In the last couple months, I picked up, I actually have a couple copies of Oliver Stone's book, Oliver Stone and Peter Kuznick, and it's The Untold History of the United States. Now, on Showtime, they did like a 10-part mini-series. Excellent, excellent. I would suggest everybody watch it at least once in your life. I've watched it a bunch of times and even read this book a couple times. There's just so much to take in, and you know, I take as much of it as I can in and try to memorize a lot of it, because it really gives you a really good understanding of America's nascent empire and how it's formed, and what we believe learning in history class to what was really happening behind the scenes, with excellent documentation. Excellent documentation. The sources in here are just, they're sound, they're real. And you know, Oliver Stone and his team there, and Peter Kuznick, I mean, they did just an amazing job, and no wonder it was a New York Times bestseller, and no wonder Showtime did such a huge job, and it was a big success. So basically, in 1983, the Cold War was starting to come around again, where tension between Russia and the United States. Obviously, after World War II, there was this tension between Russia and the United States. You know, the world kind of pretty much split in half. Russia was dominant on one side, the United States was dominant on the other, and it went back and forth for supremacy for a while. And then in the early 80s, when Reagan was in power, things started to heat up again, and Gorbachev was the leader over in Russia at that time. And Korean Flight 007, it was a Boeing 747. It got shot down by a Soviet Su-15 interceptor just outside the Monterun Islands in the Sea of Japan. It killed 264 passengers, and at the time, America came out right away. Like, Reagan right away was like, you know, this was done on purpose. I think something like 100 of the passengers were American or something like that. So, you know, it was done on purpose, and you know, there was American civilians on the plane. You knew it was a civilian plane. You saw it fly over. You shot it down on purpose. Gorbachev was saying, no, it's your guys' fault. What happened was we sent a lot of warning flares out towards your spy planes. You guys kept sending spy planes. We kept sending warnings. We saw this plane coming. We sent warning after warning after warning. They didn't respond. We eventually shot it down. Turns out it was a civilian plane. So this was a huge thing, and at the time, Reagan was going, absolutely crazy on it, and Senator Bob Dole requested sanctions against Russia. Reagan and Gorbachev were going back and forth, and it basically was Reagan saying out in the open in the media, like, there's no doubt in my mind that Gorbachev knew from the very beginning that it was a civilian plane and they shot it down because they hate Americans and blah blah blah. And Gorbachev was saying, no, listen, you guys kept sending spy planes. I warned you, you didn't respond. This plane came, we warned it, they didn't respond, so we shot it down. It was our airspace, whatever, right? And I mean, like, I look at the similarities now. I mean, Putin's not really denying that the rocket came from his air, like from Russian controlled area. He's not admitting to it, but he's not denying it. Like, what he's saying is that no matter how the situation went down, it's Ukraine's fault because a ceasefire was, they requested a ceasefire, the rebels or whatever, and Ukraine said, no, we don't want a ceasefire, not as long as these rebels were here. So he's saying, because you turned the ceasefire down, and because the plane was hit in your area, and the plane fell in your area, it doesn't matter whether rebels are taking control of that area or not. It's still your responsibility. So he's saying it's their fault for, not taking the ceasefire and continuing this on. And I was reading on the internet a couple hours ago, like in the Moscow news, saying that Vladimir Putin's plane was flying in that airspace like something like 20 minutes before. Now that could be complete bullshit, who knows, but they're saying in that end of the world that they think that Ukraine shot the plane down thinking it was Putin's plane, like some kind of assassination attempt or whatever. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, so I don't really believe too much in that shit unless there's concrete evidence. Just like I don't want to really say too much on which side was which because there's still an investigation and you don't really know too much. But all I know is it sounds very, very familiar on what happened in 1983 with the Korean flight. Now, in this book, the Oliver Stone book, I just want to read a quick excerpt from it because, like I said, Reagan was saying the whole time that he believed truly in his heart that the whole time that Gorbachev did this on purpose, right? So, and it says, Reagan also understood how easily a crisis could be provoked. In September 1983, when Soviet military personnel mistakenly took a Korean Airlines passenger jet that had crossed into Soviet airspace by a spy plane and after unheeded warnings shot it down, killing all 269 people on board, including 61 Americans. Reagan rallied against the Korean Airlines massacre as an act of barbarism and a crime against humanity. But in his memoirs, he drew a different lesson. If anything, the Korean Airlines incident demonstrated how close the world had come to the precipice of how much we needed nuclear arms control. If, as some people speculated, the Soviet pilots simply mistook the airliner for a military plane, what kind of imagination did it take to think of a Soviet military man with his finger close to a nuclear push button making an even more tragic mistake? So, in his memoirs, he said in the whole time, he knew that it was an accident made by Gorbachev, thinking that it was a spy plane or whatever. And his main concern was, that if they could make a mistake on that, then, they could make a mistake by, pushing a button and sending all these nukes in the air, which is a, legitimate concern. But the whole point is Reagan admitted in his memoirs that the whole time he knew it was a mistake. And meanwhile, with the American population, he was like, no, 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 we're going to war, they want to kill us and this and that. So this is what I'm saying, is that, like, whatever's happening, we need to just calm down and keep an open mind on, what really happened, because there's so many possibilities, and what they say is not what they really know. And this goes for both sides. They all say one thing but know another and trying to do another. It's very Machiavellian all the way down the line. And it's crazy because the people who are affected by this, like I saw on the news, the Canadian man that died, his sister was on the news. And, she said something that just it honestly made my heart flutter, because, she said right away, she goes, I don't care who did this. I don't care which side it was. I don't care if the person that pushed the button was right here in front of me today. It does not bring my brother back. This is a beautiful, beautiful woman. I want to jump through the TV and give her a big hug and kiss, because it's like, we need people like that in this world. There are all kinds of people right away that are jumping in, going, we should go to war against Russia, there should be war, there should be this, there should be that. And, the right away, they're just talking so much shit, and all they want is blood. And meanwhile, here's a person that was affected personally saying, no, wait a minute. In war, there's 100 times more innocent people die than the people that are actually involved. And the people that are involved, they're sending pawns out to kill each other, while they're bureaucratic fat cats sitting in a war council room somewhere. So, let's not let the media fuck with our minds, indoctrinate us and play us like little puppets, and have us, jumping so quick to point fingers and talk shit and spread hate, because they do that. And you got to understand, in the end of it all, they're there to, the media is there. The media does what they're told, number one. And then number two, they just want to sell the story. They want to sell the best story they possibly can, because they want to sell as many newspapers, magazines, and get as many viewers as they possibly can. And that's all it's about. In the end of the day, innocent people die by the thousands. So, let's take a deep breath and let's keep an open mind and let's think about what's going on here. As I said, I want to give, I got an extra copy of this book out, The Untold History of the United States. I guess what I'm going to do is, for anybody out there that likes this video or shares this video, or sends an email to me at Robbie@uneducatedphilosopher.com. The link will be down at the bottom. I will pick a random person out of all those people, and I will send you an email back or contact you somehow or whatever, and ask you where I can mail this copy of this book to you. Thanks a lot. Cheers.